The air along the old port of Marseille was heavy with the scent of salt and diesel. Fishing boats rocked gently in the water, their hulls weathered by years of use. Camille Durand walked briskly along the quay, her coat pulled tight against the sharp wind rolling in from the Mediterranean. She had always loved the city, its narrow alleys and sun-washed facades, but tonight it felt different. Too many eyes seemed to follow her every step. Camille was a local journalist, known for stories that scraped too close to the truth. Her latest investigation had taken her deep into the city's underbelly, where money flowed in shadows and secrets were sold for silence. She had uncovered threads that pointed to something larger, a scheme that reached far beyond the market stalls and the fishermen's shouts. She reached a small cafe tucked between two shuttered shops. Inside, the dim yellow lights cast long shadows on the tiled floor. At a corner table sat Julien Morel, a doctor who had once been her childhood neighbor. He looked thinner than she remembered, his eyes restless as though he carried a weight too heavy to speak of. "Camille," Julien whispered as she sat down, "you should not have come here. It is dangerous." "Dangerous for whom?" she asked, her voice low yet firm. "For me? Or for those who have something to hide?" Julian's hands trembled as he pulled a folder from his bag. He glanced around before sliding it across the table. "If anyone sees this, both of us could disappear. These are medical records, falsified ones. Someone is using my name, my license. Patients are suffering because of it. And the man behind it, you know him." Camille's breath caught in her throat. She had expected corruption, but not betrayal that close to home. She opened the folder, her heart pounding as lines of forged documents filled her vision. From the corner of her eye, she noticed a figure lingering outside the cafe window. A man in a dark coat, watching. Not moving, just watching. Julien swallowed hard. It has already begun. They know we are talking. The cafe's door creaked open, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed across the floor. The man in the dark coat stepped into the cafe, his boots clicking against the tiled floor. He paused near the entrance, scanning the room with slow precision. His presence pressed against Camille's chest like a weight. Julien lowered his eyes to the table, his voice barely more than a murmur. "Do not look at him. He has been following me for days. If he sees your face with mine, you will be marked as well." Camille clenched her fists beneath the table. "It is too late for that," she whispered. The stranger ordered an espresso from the counter but kept his gaze fixed in their direction. His silence was more threatening than any words could have been. Camille forced herself to breathe steadily, closing the folder with a soft snap. She slid it back into Julian's bag. "Listen to me," Julian said, his voice breaking. "This trail leads to someone powerful, someone untouchable in this city. If you expose him, he will not forgive. And if you protect me, you will be hunted." Camille's lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile. "Then I suppose we must be very careful." A sudden commotion erupted outside. Two scooters screeched past the cafe, their engines roaring. Glass shattered as a stone flew through the front window, scattering shards across the floor. Patrons screamed, diving under tables. The man in the dark coat stood unmoved, his eyes locked on Julien. Julien grabbed Camille's hand. "We must leave. Now." They rushed through the back door into a narrow alley slick with rain. The sounds of the port seemed distant here, muffled by the tall stone buildings that hemmed them in. Their footsteps splashed in shallow puddles as they moved quickly through the shadows. Camille felt the folder's weight pressing against her side, her pulse racing. Behind them, the sound of the cafe door slamming open carried through the alley. Heavy footsteps followed. "Julien," she whispered, her voice tight. "He is coming after us." Julien gripped her arm, pulling her deeper into the maze of Marseille's old quarter. The alleys twisted and narrowed, every corner a trap waiting to spring. The smell of damp stone and sea salt clung to the air. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Camille turned her head just enough to catch a glimpse of a shadow stretching across the wall. They were no longer alone. The narrow streets twisted like veins through the heart of Marseille's old quarter. Camille's breath came in sharp bursts as she followed Julien deeper into the maze. The footsteps behind them had not faded. Whoever was chasing them knew these alleys well. Julian pulled her into a courtyard where laundry lines sagged above, heavy with dripping clothes. A dim light flickered in one of the upper windows, but otherwise the place was silent. He pressed his back to the wall, listening. Camille whispered, "We cannot keep running like this. Where are we going?" Julian's eyes darted from one shadow to another. "There is someone I trust, but she lives far from here. We must reach the tram line. If we can board unnoticed, we may lose them." Before Camille could reply, the sound of gravel crunching reached her ears. A silhouette filled the mouth of the alley. The man in the dark coat. He moved with calm assurance, no hurry in his steps, as though he already knew they had nowhere left to run. Camille felt her heart hammering. She reached instinctively for her bag where the folder lay. If they lost that evidence, everything would be for nothing. Julian whispered urgently, "Do not let him see the papers. No matter what happens." The man stepped into the courtyard, the yellow glow from the window above catching his face at last. His eyes were cold, calculating, and far too familiar. Camille gasped. She recognized him. He had been a friend once, a figure woven into their past in Marseille. "Adrien," Julian muttered, his voice trembling. Adrien Duval, once Julian's closest confidant, now stood before them as a predator. His smile was thin, cruel. "You should have stayed silent, Julian," Adrien said softly. "Both of you. This city does not forgive those who dig too deep." The air grew heavy, silence stretching until every sound seemed magnified. Camille's pulse roared in her ears. Julian stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "You will not touch her." Adrien tilted his head, his gaze sliding towards Camille. "I do not need to. She has already stepped into the fire. And fire consumes everything." At that moment, distant sirens wailed across the city, their cries bouncing off the stone walls. Adrien's expression hardened. He took a step closer, his voice low and final. "This is only the beginning." And with that, he slipped back into the shadows, vanishing as quickly as he had appeared. Camille clutched Julian's arm, her body trembling. "He knows we have the files. He will not stop." Julian nodded, his face pale. "Then neither can we." Camille's blood ran cold. They were trapped once more. The docks stretched wide and empty, the sound of waves slapping against hulls echoing in the night. Adrien stood at the center, his men forming a loose circle around him. Their silence was heavier than any threat. Julian stepped forward, his voice breaking. "Adrien, please. You do not have to do this. We were friends once." Adrien's laugh was low and bitter. "Friends? You betrayed me the moment you opened your mouth. You should have remembered that silence is the only safety in this city." Camille scanned the docks, searching desperately for a way out. Behind them was only the water, black and endless. In front, Adrien's men closed in. The folder pressed against her chest like a heartbeat. Adrien raised his hand, and two of his men stepped forward. Their boots struck the ground in unison, a rhythm that echoed like a drumbeat of doom. Camille's voice cut through the night. "If you kill us, Adrien, the truth will still surface. I am not the only one who knows." For the first time, Adrien's mask cracked. His eyes narrowed. "You are bluffing." She forced her gaze to remain steady. "Try me." The men paused, glancing back at Adrien for instruction. The tension hung sharp, ready to snap. Julian leaned close, whispering into her ear. "He will not stop. But there is one place we can go, someone who can help us. She lives beyond the old quarter. Her name is Isabelle Fournier." Camille nodded faintly, her mind racing. Isabelle, she remembered the name, a lawyer once known for defending the voiceless, before she vanished from the public eye. If Isabelle was truly still in Marseille, she might be their only chance. Adrien's men began to spread, tightening the circle. The floodlights above hummed, bathing the docks in pale light. Camille gripped Julian's hand, her eyes fixed on a narrow walkway that led towards the far side of the harbor. Adrien noticed the glance. His smile returned, sharp as glass. "Run if you like." But you cannot outrun the city itself. Camille whispered, "Now," and together they sprinted towards the walkway. Shouts erupted behind them. Boots thundered against the docks. The chase was far from over. The wooden walkway rattled beneath their feet as Camille and Julian ran, the sea crashing against the pylons below. The cold spray stung Camille's skin, but she did not dare slow. Behind them, Adrian's men closed the distance, their shouts carried on the wind. Julian gasped for breath. "This way leads to the warehouses. If we reach them, we can vanish." The walkway narrowed, flanked by rusted railings that groaned with every step. Ahead, the looming outline of an abandoned warehouse stood against the night sky, its windows shattered, its doors hanging crooked. They stumbled inside. The air reeked of oil and damp wood. Faded crates were scattered across the floor, long forgotten. Camille pressed herself against the wall, straining to listen. The footsteps entered moments later. Heavy, calculated. Adrian's men had followed. Julian pulled her into the shadows behind a stack of crates. He leaned close, whispering, "We must split. It is the only way to confuse them." Camille shook her head fiercely. "No. If we separate, they will crush us one by one." A beam of torchlight swept across the warehouse, sliding dangerously close to their hiding place. Camille held her breath as voices echoed. "They're here. Search everything." The light lingered, then moved on. Camille exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. The folder felt heavier than ever, the weight of every name inside pressing down on her. Julian's whisper was sharp. "Listen to me. Isabelle can protect us. She has been fighting this network in silence. If we bring her the evidence, she will know how to use it." Camille's pulse quickened. Isabelle was not just a lawyer. She was once known as a fearless defender of truth, until she disappeared after crossing the wrong people. If she was alive, she was their only hope. A crash echoed through the warehouse as one of Adrian's men kicked over a crate. Sawdust filled the air. Camille covered her mouth to stifle a cough. The torchlight swung back. Closer. Julian met her eyes, his whisper urgent. "When I move, you run. Do not look back." Before she could protest, he stepped from the shadows, shouting, "Here! Over here!" His voice drew the men instantly, their footsteps pounding towards him. Camille's heart lurched. She had seconds to decide. Run, or lose him forever.